So the biggest difference between basic, broad, and special is that basic and broad in the policies, they say specifically what is covered, whereas special form, the policy says what is not covered. So that's the first thing to understand for the three. Basic is just like it sounds. It's most things that are weather related that are covered. So, it's windstorm, fire's not always weather related, but, that's the biggest risk that a property ever has, obviously. Yeah, the weight of a falling object. Yeah, things that are weather related. Broad, biggest difference is, especially around here, is that broad form covers things like the weight of ice and snow and if pipes freeze, causing water damage inside of a building. So where you see basic and broad um, applied in different situations, a lot of times has to do with the condition of the property. So if you have a vacant property, most companies will only offer basic forms because it's a lot more likely that things like pipes freezing can occur because maybe the heat's not on, or water damage is happening from ice damming and snow builds up because there's no tenant there to alert the property owner, and so it can get into all the drywall and be a much bigger problem than it would be if the property were occupied. So my rule of thumb is anytime that I can insure a property, I do a special form. But just like I said, like with vacant properties especially, and sometimes properties where some repairs need to be done before insurance companies are willing to insure for special form, that's when you'll see, and that's when the property owner will have to make a difference, a choice rather, between the three. I mean, it really, special form is very cut and dry because you can read through the policy and see what is excluded. So essentially, unless one of the things that happened that's outlined in that form, unless one of those things happened, everything else is covered. So, I mean, as opposed to like going through various scenarios and things, it's a lot easier to say, look, here's what isn't covered, but as long as that's not the case, then you're good. So again, that's why I always try to ensure everything special form whenever possible. Um, there are two types of forms primarily. There's URB forms, which stands for the Underwriting Rating Bureau, and there's ISO forms, which is the Insurance Service Offices. ISO is much more common, and ISO forms are a bit more comprehensive than URB forms. So uh, even when discussing what's covered under basic, broad, and special, that can differ between insurance carriers. So that's always something that you want to take into consideration when choosing who to insure a property through. And that's really up to the agent to educate their client more than that's something the client should have in the back of their minds. So I guess to sum it up, when you're looking at buying a property, um, the condition that it's in and the occupancy is really going to determine what options that you have. And as that, say, you're flipping a property or it's a rehab or something like that, it's important for the property owner to keep in mind that as repairs are made and as occupancy changes, you can change what coverage form is on the building. And that's what I really try to do is um, stay in touch with my clients and make them aware and be aware of how they structure their portfolio, um, so that as things change, we update things. So we don't have an event happen that could have been covered that otherwise isn't because that property wasn't eligible for a more comprehensive coverage form when it was first purchased, as opposed to how it is after repairs have been made, especially if a lot of money's been put into it. And yeah, it's really a team effort between the agent and the property owner to make sure that a property is insured the way it should be based on the condition and the money that's been put into it.